Right over my fucking apartment. Holy shit. Where is he? Сука.
Це так, як ми напівсолодке налили в кінці. А Павлик такий файний хлопець. Друзі, але давайте так активно, добре? Зразу ручки і зразу співаємо. Поїхали, все. Заспівай мені, мамо, колись, хочу ще почути. Я слова всі не пам'ятаю. Вона мене колесала, дала мені ритми, напевно, візопрети мене подала, вона напевно знала, може більше і від соло, вона ламаними дорогами прийде, я завжди на тебе, вона не розбудить, не буде. Мене сині болі, забере бабулі, дві дурі, і ви мене курі, дуже добре знала, мене не була, в мене та як було, дуже помила, хотіла мене в так. Юлі. Розквітає поле, а вона сивіє. Заспівай мені, мамо, колись знову. Хочу ще почути твоє рідне
This is my buddy Sarah Kiso and the Mockingbird String Chord Trio.
Я читаю, я напевно нахват. Якби я не виріс, не вирізаю чіпати. Я не мала дитину, мала далі не летати. Я гуляв, що? Всі молода, вона мене піку. Я ще не ціню опіку, на піку саду. Мені то піку за оцю піку, де буде піку. Я не хочу свій день, свої любові. Раз, два, три, чотири. Стефанія, мамо, мамо.
Had to change the microphone setup real quick. Sorry. Wasn't going to go live today, but we're doing one of our interviews here in Kyiv instead of we're going to be going east this next week. But Iran today decided to say that Ukraine was a legitimate target now. I've been watching Iranian Shahed drones, even though later manufactured in Russia, flying to kill Ukrainians now for 3 years. The first one that I'm going to start with comes from October 17th, 2022. And I woke up that morning to go to the area in Kyiv where a Shahed drone had taken out an entire family and several others in a very, very old brick building. And as you see when we arrived, there were consequences we still didn't understand yet. This is the back of one of the buildings right there. This is my friend Yuri. This was the second bombing in his neighborhood in just a matter of a week. And as you see, this building had been decimated with a drone strike. It's the first of its kind in this particular capacity. Drones have been flying over, but this building was 100 plus years old. And for hours, rescue workers picked through the debris, fighting on top of the flames and the smoke coming through there still. Trying to find survivors. So when Iran dares say today that Ukraine is a legitimate target, well, let's see about that. Iran has been participating in this terrorist activity since the beginning. And this is just one of the buildings that I filmed in the last 4 years. And for several hours, just like other attacks here, especially last year, rescue workers did everything they could, including even, we all remember when they gathered around and found one poor cat that had been through hell. It's hard to tell what happened after that. Sometimes these pets don't survive much longer than that. They survive the moment, but usually the stress is too much. And so we all gathered, as journalists do, press, but more importantly, the rescue workers. And if you ever come to Kyiv, the building is still destroyed. I still stop by it sometimes. This is my good friend from Turkish TV that was exhausted after 6 hours of coverage. First met him in Lviv. But after all those hours, time to sit down. Time to wait. Our viewers already know this. Our viewers are very aware that Iran has been doing this for quite some time. And, you know, this other video, for instance, right here, this is a video just about a month ago. And this Shahid's flying north-south across our position. And I live on the top floor, and as you can see, you know, they don't stop.
Сука.
And my neighbors have to basically live in the hallways, terrified, every day, nearly every day. There are times where it didn't happen. It happened again last night, by the way. We had drones, we had rocket attacks. Air defense did take care of it.
Where are you going, Vlad? Where are you going?
And by the way, one rule we live by here, and I always abide by, is we don't film air defense. So, drones, different situation. Rockets coming in, different situations. Documentation of war crimes. Unprovoked terrorist attacks, not just by the Russian Federation, but empowered by the Iranians, the Chinese even. And there will be more. It doesn't stop. And also, it's not very far away. This video right here is when I was live on the air with you guys.
Right over my fucking apartment.
I was on the air. We were having a Twitter Spaces that night. Discussing the war here, discussing the world burn down, meltdown. And I want you to see how close it was, that it is only a few feet above our building. That building is only 18 floors, I believe. I live in 25 floors now. A few more floors up, it would have hit. Which brings me to this. Just a few weeks ago, I had to go see how my mom was doing, because I knew from one of the pictures where one of the attacks had actually landed. If you think about that video you just saw, just a little bit next to it, just 30 feet directly to the north of that was a building that was hit. And as soon as I arrived to see Mama, see my friend, first thing I was asked is, do you have your camera? Look what they did. Now, the snow is gone, spring is here, but this is just a few weeks ago. And that building strike, well, here, I'll let you watch.
I climb the floors in this building, but I don't live here now. I'm going to visit my mama. Mama is the most important person in the world. And we got to a little cake just for her. Look at that. It's so perfect. Just for Mama. But think about this. Elders having to walk up these stairs every day. Dozens of flights of stairs when the lights are out. Trying to stay warm. The women at the front desk trying to make sure everyone's okay. Can we do our part to make sure that this is not how life is? Right? Because maybe I can do it, but it's not fair to others.
Hey everybody. I wanted to take a moment to talk about what you see right there in the window. This is the building behind where I lived for 3 years. This is the balcony I reported from many, many times. And as you can see, the damage they caused right here is actually the same floor area where I live. So it's just a matter of fate and blessing that it did not hurt my family. It didn't hit our building here. Obviously we care and we pray for the people who were impacted by this. I'm going to go downstairs in a minute and show you a little bit of what it is, but this is how serious it is. Had this been any different, my family would have been killed. Had it been a different day, I could have been the person in that location. It's never far. The war is always right here. Okay? This is the thing to remember. This is not distant. It's not some place that we read in the news and say, I don't know, because as soon as that was sent to me, my blood was boiling. Not just because it would have hurt my family, forgive me, but because these are our neighbors. I know people who live in this building, and I want you to pray for their, recovery and that the building is repaired and help to end this war so that Ukrainians don't have to go through this. We have a school just below us that could have been impacted, and the families that live in that building are recovering. I'm going to go downstairs and show you what it looks like at the floor level, but you need to see it at the level we see. І моя мама бачила це кожен день. Це наші балкони і квартира. І це дуже важко. Це проблем. The drones are always going through our skies here, and it's always right there. Okay? So that's the situation. Thanks for paying attention. We'll see you soon.
Look what they did to my neighborhood. Now, I live a little bit over from where I am here, but this is where I lived for the first 3.5 years. Our neighborhood, and then we have a school right here. Lives have been impacted. It's just exactly the floor area where I live too. Had it been a little bit further over, it would have destroyed portion of the building I lived in. But just peace. You can see currently they are doing recovery right now. And it's important to bear in mind this whole area is nothing but civilian living, So, let's do this. See, this is what terrorism in our area looks like. This is what the terrorists do. The Russian terrorists, fascists, they're trying to kill everybody. The destruction they cause. You know? This is not a remote situation. My family is not even 100 meters. I can throw a football at the place. And you see that they're up there currently working right now. These guys trying to at least stabilize the building and help the people that are there. You see all the buildings' windows are damaged as well. So when I report about this stuff, it's by the way, it's very, very cold out right now. So the electricity is off in the area. Is like maybe 9 degrees centigrade, or Celsius, Fahrenheit, sorry. Minus 12, 13 Celsius, and that's the situation. Let me flip the camera around here a little bit.
And see, the thing is, what I want to impress upon our friends is that we are far from over with this. This is what my neighbors hear all the time. When we finished our really special broadcast with my friend Aziza last night, it wasn't but just a couple of hours later that the air defense was required again to stop more Russian terrorism. But to wake up and have Iran dare say, now Ukraine is a legitimate target. I mean, I couldn't be more hostile to that regime anyway. And the Trump administration is going to fail at destroying Iran's weapons or war-making capability because they didn't fucking prepare. Just like Putin didn't prepare. You don't get in a war that you don't have decisively won before you fire the first fucking shot. So drunk Pete Hegseth and the incompetent fuckers that they are also have blood on their hands for being completely incompetent. But I'll be fucked, and I'm fucking livid at even hearing the idea that Ukraine is now a legitimate target. After 3 years of Iranian Shahed drones flying over, killing my neighbors, killing strangers, people I don't know, people you don't know, at buildings that I stood at documenting the recovery of the bodies. After listening to the sounds you hear in the background, this is from just 3 months ago, whatever we're hearing right now, 2 months ago. I have so much of this audio, it's almost like not worth recording sometimes. I still record it for record. And just like the video clip I just showed you where the drone flew across the building and I passed through my building, that was an unusual one because instead of going east to west across the river, it went north and south parallel to the river. Because they always do something different. Now, Shahed drones are manufactured mostly in Russia now. And increasingly that's going to become difficult because Ukrainians are smart enough, savvy enough, experienced enough to know the enemy in a way that drunk Pete Hegseth couldn't begin to imagine while he brags about the great army he's in charge of. While he brags about the stone crab that he feeds the troops. I wasn't going to do a program tonight. Heading out to the front shortly. Actually, wound up one interview we want to do is able to be here in the capital still, so we'll do that. Then we'll go out east. So I'll spend the next day or so editing, and that gave me some room to finish up the 3 articles today, 2 of which were actually started last week. And I'll briefly mention them to you one moment. And thank you for being here today, by the way. Do as I say, not as I spend. The United States borrows billions while telling you to cut back, and you'll have to do without. And why should you be able to give away 2 presents to your kids? Can't you just cut back to none? But the addition of one, the worst in militarists, I wish this page would load. Forgive me, I get browsers. Okay, the worst in militarists, the tale of Captain Pete Hegseth. You know, I've been kind of obsessing since we talked with Sean a week ago about the lessons I remember being played out for real in front of us with George Bush invading Iraq. And that when I was on the air at KPFT with talking to someone, I was on someone else's show, or I was in the studio around that show, and I said, well, you know, Sun Tzu said that a protracted war elsewhere is undoable because you have to keep using that logistical line, you know, far from your home, your resource bin. And it's very clear what he was saying. He was teaching a king who had become complacent the problems that the king had created. And I saw that as the problem with George Bush, that trying to control 2 areas of operation in Afghanistan and Iraq were failed before. I mean, I think I said that in 2005. I was against it in 2002, for the record. But I understood that essentially that was the crux of the problem, was that you can't do this. It's not going to work. So I'll put the article here in the commentary if you're interested. And again, if you can just go to the main page and it's there. And then as that was happening, of course, had to have this commentary come from the Iranians. That if Ukrainians lend interceptor drone technology to America or Israel, and I'm gonna be on the record, while I will absolutely call October 7th a pogrom, and that you would need to understand what a pogrom is by watching that history, the gross violation of human beings being killed. There's no justification for October 7th, period. Full stop. Fuck Hamas. But what came next was completely abhorrent at levels that I have no words for. And Benjamin Netanyahu is a fucking war criminal. Hamas are war criminals. Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. Lindsey Graham is a bloodthirsty piece of shit. And my biggest contempt for what's going on there has a lot to do with please do not do it, Zelensky. Do not do what? I don't know what not do it, Zelensky means, sorry. But I'm going to turn the drone or the fighting sound in the background. You know, we heard plenty about the neocons under Bush and Cheney. But these psychopaths that are pulling out with Hegseth, Lindsey Graham, Mike Johnson, a whole slew of these religious freaks, are engaged in a eschatological battle or eschatological battle. And they're not playing on the board any different than the way ISIS doesn't play on the board. And they have no plan. And they're destroying your resources. And they're not ending the Iranian ability to engage in war. In fact, they're losing. Flat out. Just like Russia 4 years ago still, right now. I mean, it's only March 14th. And I could spend tomorrow just basically doing a day-by-day analysis of where we were 4 years ago at this time. You know, I have a whole notebook here where I wrote out every single day until the first week of April of a series of events that were going on in that opening month. And similarly, you can see that Trump and his drunk Pete Hegseth captain are in over their head. There was no plan. He didn't listen to his generals. He doesn't listen to anybody. And now he's going to kill more Americans by putting boots on the ground. And Iran will respond in whatever way possible, with Russia helping, with China fueling it. And then when people say, well, how will it affect Ukraine? Iran just told you. So, what keeps highlighting in this war in Iran? Who benefits the most from this war? It's obvious. It's so many layers of that. Who benefits? The first one, and I've said this for years, I warned friends of mine, my Jewish friends, when a few of them would mention John Hagee, and I said that whole crowd of Christians would cut every Jewish man's throat to take Israel. They don't give a fuck about Jewish people. They want to convert all Jews to Christianity. They don't care. They have their own reasons for that land, their own biblical interpretations for that land. They're all ridiculous. In fact, they're you know, I'm not a member of any religion. I study them. I know them fairly well. I also know the book of Revelations very, very, very fucking well. Because it was a roadmap for people like Hal Lindsey with his movie When I Was a Young Person, The Late Great Planet Earth, and putting this fear of apocalyptic doom in the future. And if any of you are old enough, you know that there were layers and layers and layers of pop culture, music, televangelist early days, riddled with end times this, end times that, apocalyptic doom saying. And I warned people for years. What happens if none of that's what goes down? What happens if there is no end times? It just keeps going ad infinitum. And here you are, like the Millerites in the 1800s, planning for a rapture. And even rapture was created only about 150 years ago. It's not in religious doctrine. It's not in the Bible. Without Darby inventing rapture philosophy 150 plus years ago, or approximately, I don't remember the precise date, we wouldn't be talking about it. In fact, it's blasphemous teaching, because biblical lines are pretty clear. No one knows when the end comes. But just like with ISIS, which is my specialty, there are those determined to bring it hell on earth. So, I just went ahead and pulled out a bit of the archive before going to bed. Maybe. I'll probably write for a while. And remind you that this is what we see.
Where is he? my fucking apartment.
So this is not something that is all that foreign to me. In fact, anything, you get to the point here with all the Ukrainians I know where we notice differences and variations. I remember the first time I saw instead of the computer slate gray